Good morning and welcome to Saturday, December 10th, 2022. Hard to believe there's only 3 weeks left in the 2022 calendar year, just over 2 weeks until Christmas. Hopefully, you guys have all got your shopping started or finished at this point. Welcome to Just Parlays with Chris King. I, of course, am your host and the only talent on the show because there's still nobody else here. Hopefully you guys had a good week last week. Of course, last week was conference championship week in college football, so there's only one game on the slate today. Of course, that being the Army-Navy game. Our good buddy Pete Medhurst, who we've had on the show a couple times previously, will be there as well, broadcasting for Navy. That game should be an entertaining one. Don't expect a lot of points. And then, of course, later this week will be the start of bowl season. I know everybody's looking forward to that. First bowl games will be on Friday, where Miami, Ohio takes on UAB in the Bahamas Bowl. UTSA will take on Troy in the Cure Bowl. Surprising that both those teams ranked, and they'll end up in one of the first two bowls of the year. Just shows you that if you win a minor, a non-Power 5 conference, nobody really cares. UTSA and Troy, a real clash of styles there. Frank Harris leading the Roadrunners with a prolific offense against Troy, who won the Sun Belt, and their very stingy defense. So that'll be an entertaining game. Of course, then when we get to next Saturday, we'll have a whole slew of bowl games to talk about because there'll be 6 on the slate. Cincinnati and Louisville in the Fenway Bowl, Florida and Oregon State in the Las Vegas Bowl, Washington State, Fresno State in the LA Bowl. Rice, does anybody care they're in a bowl game? Taking on Southern Miss in the Lending Tree Bowl. In the battle of three-letter schools, SMU will face BYU in the New Mexico Bowl, and North Texas will take on Boise State in the Frisco Bowl. But those will be games we'll talk about next week for sure. And then, there won't be a bowl game on Sunday because of the NFL, but then every day up to Christmas, there'll be at least one bowl game. One on Monday, 2 Tuesday, 1 Wednesday, 1 Thursday, 2 Friday, 1 on Saturday. Then the day after Christmas, on Boxing Day for everybody in Canada and part of Europe, you'll have the Quick Lane Bowl. Then you'll have 4 on the 27th, 4 on the 28th, 3 on the 29th. You'll have some of the big bowl games on December 30th. New Year's Eve will have 4 more games, including the college football playoff semifinals. Then we'll have 4 more on January 2nd. So it's bowl season, and everybody's really excited about that. Good to see you, Chronic. It's good to be back. The time slot is a little weird because I know people on the West Coast are sleeping because it's only 6 a.m., but you have to work with what's there. Before we get too involved, also want to offer our condolences to the family of Grant Wall, the U.S. soccer journalist who passed away yesterday in Qatar at the age of 48. It's definitely a sad thing. It was his 8th World Cup, but I guess they're just going to keep on going because what else are they going to do? See, what else do we see happen this week that we might have missed? Anybody watch the Thursday night game and was excited to see Baker Mayfield? I personally was not. He ruined a perfectly good parlay for me by taking the Rams 98 yards. But unfortunately, that's the way the world works sometimes. Of course, the Raiders didn't help themselves by committing 2 stupid penalties when they could have gotten off the field, had an interception overturned on a DPI. Then they got a sack and got called for unsportsmanlike conduct. That's Raiders football, though, make a play and stupidly find a way to get it overturned. And the Raiders, it's their 7th loss, I think, by a touchdown or less this year. That might be one to make sure that they don't make a late miracle run like they did last year to get into the playoffs. And I know nobody really talks about the FCS playoffs, but a wild game last night where Incarnate Word, who beat Furman last week, which was a big story here, rallied to beat Sacramento State in the highest scoring FCS playoff game in history as they won 66-63 in a ridiculous game where the lead changed hands multiple times in the fourth quarter. Incarnate Word scored on the first play of the fourth to go up 45-34. Sacramento State went up or got within 45-41. They recovered an onside kick and went up 48-45. That lead lasted 41 seconds. Then they gave up a scoop 6 to trail 59-48. Then Sacramento State scored with 4:57 left and scored a 2-point conversion to get within 3. They recovered a second onside kick and then scored the go-ahead touchdown with a minute 43 to go up 63-59, and then they gave up the winning score with 27 seconds to play. Sacramento State, 738 yards of offense. Incarnate Word, 579. The tempo in that game was ridiculous because you look, Sacramento State ran 109 plays. Incarnate Word ran 73. Just ridiculous. The quarterback for Incarnate Word, Lindsey Scott, 19 of 31, 219, 4 touchdowns. Also ran for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. So a crazy game. Incarnate Word will take their 9-game win streak on the road. They'll face North Dakota State next weekend. So we'll see what happens in that one. What do I think about Buffalo and Tulane in college basketball? Well, I think the line's a little high. I know even Hoops Peterson had Tulane favored by, I think, 5. UB, they're not a bad basketball team. Their problem is that they turn it over a fair amount. And I think that's what's done them in more often than not. That and their perimeter shooting hasn't been great, but they've won 4 in a row. They beat George Mason on a neutral floor. They beat Canisius. They beat St. Bonaventure. They're coming off a win over St. John Fisher. Their biggest problem is that they can't shoot well from the perimeter. I think Tulane will win the game. Last I saw, the line was, 7.5 or 8, depending on where you were looking. Let me see if that's changed at all, because I looked at this last night. It's gone down now. Of course it did. I liked it better when it was 8. I see it's still 7, though, at some books. So it's not a bad pick. Tulane, they're not – they've had their issues on, all their wins have come at home, or they do have a win over Rhode Island on a neutral floor. But they haven't played so they're 1-2 on neutral floors this year. They're 4-0 at home. Or 4-1 at home, I'm sorry. They're coming off a loss to Fordham. The good thing for Tulane, they don't turn it over. They're 5th in the nation in turnover percentage. And they shoot the ball well. The problem is, and it might not hurt them here, is they get torched from the perimeter. Opponents shooting 37.6% from beyond the arc against them this year. I think Tulane will win, but I think UB can cover the line in that one. Expect a lot of points. Expect a fast tempo in that game. Like I said, UB is 5th in the country in adjusted tempo, according to Ken Palm. Tulane is 52nd. So, and if you look at the scores this year for Tulane, they scored 89, 75, 99, 78, 75, and 90. Their 2 losses, they were held in check. They scored 66 and 65 against Nevada and Western Kentucky. Meanwhile, you look at Buffalo, and they've scored 88. They had 72 against Drake, but in this 4-game win streak, 82, 86, 83, 91. And, you look at their losses. Like I said, they lost to Drake. Drake's been a tournament team. They were bombed by James Madison. They lost to Howard by 4, and they lost to UConn, but they actually played better against UConn than a lot of teams have. They lost by 20, but you just watched Florida lose by 21 to that UConn team the other day. So I would take the points with UB. An 11:30 start time is weird, but that's the way it rolls here in these random college tournament things that we have going on. That game taking place in, let's see, where is it? Because I wasn't. Oh, that's at that Sunday schedule. Skipped ahead on me. That game coming to you from the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. Let's see. A lot of college basketball games today. About 6 billion and 2. Starting with that game at 11:30 and running all the way through the exciting matchups at 10 p.m. Creighton, BYU, TCU, SMU, Northern Colorado, CSU, Northridge, Portland State, Cal Poly, and Cal Baptist San Diego. So a action-packed day of college hoops on the slate for sure. What else have we seen go on today, or went on last night? Let's see. The NHL had some games. Bigger schedule for them tonight, too. The Coyotes beat the Bruins. It was probably the biggest upset of the night. Ended their 19-game losing streak to Boston. So kudos to them. They won by a score of 4-3. We saw San Jose bomb Anaheim 6-1. Vegas beat Philadelphia in overtime 2-1. Pittsburgh over Buffalo 4-3 in overtime. Columbus surprised Calgary 3-1. The Islanders beat the Devils 6-4. That game was surprising. I thought the Devils were going to win that one rather convincingly, considering how poorly the Islanders have played of late. Washington knocked off Seattle 4-1. Alex Ovechkin scored career goal 796 into an empty net. Winnipeg beat the Blackhawks 3-1 behind Big Game Dave. The Oilers beat the Wild 5-2. And the Rangers edged the Avalanche 2-1 in a shootout. That was a highly entertaining game. Igor Shesterkin had to make a ton of saves. I think they were outshot 42-29 or something like that in that contest. No, I haven't talked about Army-Navy yet, John Paul. Like I said, the biggest thing you can take away from that game, don't expect a ton of points. Let's face it, you're talking about two service academies. When these teams meet, you don't see a ton of points normally. A lot of people saying that, this could be a situation for Ken Numatalo where he needs to win the game because, Navy struggled over the last few seasons. I don't know if I buy into that being enough motivation for a Navy team. You look, Army could become bowl eligible with a win. Navy would get to 5-7 with a win. It's really tough to pick a side in this game because they're always close games. You don't see much in the way of blowouts. The Navy hasn't played since the 19th. Army won their last 2 coming in to this one, and they hung tough against Troy where they lost 10-9, and they lost to Air Force by 6 the week before that. So they played really good football since mid-October. You look at recent games, 17-13 in favor of Navy last year, 15-0 in favor of Army the year before. But most of these games have been close lately. Going back to 2014, Navy by 7, Navy by 4, Army by 4, Army by 1, Army by 7. You had the one blowout in 2019 where Navy won 31-7. I'd be inclined to take the 3 with Army because they want to try to become bowl eligible. And that's a tough one for me just because of the fact that, with my military background. But if I was taking a stance on it at all, I know the total's low. It's only 32.5. We've only seen one game lower than that all year, and that involved Iowa against Minnesota. But you look at the history between these teams, and you've seen 16 straight games between these two go under the total. When you see a Service Academy team square off the under 43-9-1 in the last 53 matchups. Good to see you, John. This is the only show I'm doing right now. If we get more viewers and stuff like that, it might expand back to more often. But the tough part is, they have to the powers that be have to be able to justify the time and effort put in to do the show, and that makes sense because at the end of the day, it's about dollars and cents for everybody. To make it a single game parlay. Ooh, yeah. Okay, I get it. Yeah, if I had to lean one way or the other, I would take Army and the points along with the under. Just because if you look at what Navy's done, they're not going to overwhelm anyone. Army had their struggles against defending the run this year, which is strange. Navy's been good against the run. They got torched by the pass. But, this is an Army team that's second in the country when it comes to running the ball, 304 yards a game. Army's better offensively as far as points per game. They don't turn the ball over a ton. And, I haven't been overwhelmed with Navy's quarterback play when you consider, after Lavatai got hurt. They beat Central Florida on the road, but Central Florida basically gave that game away because they just played horrible football. And you look, Xavier Arline is not a guy that you're going to see throw the ball. You look, he's 3 of 10 passing this season in 8 games. So they don't have that aerial attack that you'd like to have. At this point, Army, at least, they don't throw the ball a lot, but they do have the ability to throw it somewhat because Tyler and company, Jamel Jones, Cade Ballard, they've all been there before. Tyler is on the season. He's only thrown it 19 times, but he's completed 9 passes. So that's something. About a 6-point tease pushing it to 38 and either team plus 6. Well, you could do that. If you push it to 38, you should almost definitely be safe because the most points that you've seen combined from these teams over the last decade is, I think, 38. That was that 31-7 game. I'm sorry, in 2013 they got to 41. That's the high water mark. But like I said, 30 last year was 15. It was 38 in 2019, 27, 27, 38 in 2016 and 2015. Those were both 21-17 games. But then 27 points as well in 2014, 30 in 2012, 41, like I said, was the high water mark in 2013. It's going to be a slog. You're not going to see any massive plays, I don't think. Weather's going to be good. Not supposed to have any precipitation in the forecast. It's going to be in the low 40s. Not a ton of wind, about 7 miles an hour. I could see doing that. You could tease it, if you get Army plus 6 or whatever and keep it under 38, that would work. John, just out of curiosity, what did you tease it to? And with that, we can also talk about some of the big parlays for today. Where's my screen? Well, before we do that, do the housekeeping. Of course, make sure you hit the like button Subscribe and hit the bell so you'll never miss the show, because I know this is the third week that we've been on in this time spot, so it's still an adjustment for people. It's still an adjustment for me. I'm not used to necessarily being fully functional at this time of the morning. But tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your friends' neighbors, tell your neighbors' friends that we're on. Let them know. Unknown, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. I hope things are well with you. Won't ask you for a hall pass because it's Saturday. And of course, if you can't get enough of the picks that we talk about on the show, which is only once a week now, you can always get my premium bets every day. Click the link in the show box. Oops, I think I forgot to put that in there when I set this up. I don't remember. But it's at experts.winnersandwiners.com. It's got everybody's picks in there. You can go in there. Also, check out the Winners and Winers website and the YouTube channels for free picks every day. You'll also catch me on every other week on the NFL show with Rocky and Steen. Reichel and I are a pairing. We're on there, and we're opposite the weeks that David Delano and Mason Foles are on. I'm back. Jim has been dealing with some health issues. He was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, I believe he said. He's on the mend. He's doing all right. Hopefully you're doing all right as well, Unknown, and everybody else. No problem, John Paul. We were going to talk about the game. Might as well get it out and cover it right from the top. And with that, we will go on to – this used to be 2 for the money, but now it's 3. Yeah, think about that. Now you got an extra pick for the hell of it. Hey, Matthew, good to see you. Yeah, the Grizzlies are playing some good basketball. I think getting healthy is a big thing for Memphis at this point. They played for an extended stretch without Bane. They got Jaren Jackson back. That's a big plus for them. They say Bane's going to be out, till the end of December, maybe early January. That'll be a big boost for them once he comes back, because Dylan Brooks is still a guy that has to be more consistent right now. They've gotten good ball from Tyus Jones. Aldamas played well. Brandon Cook has looked good. And John Conchar has proven to be a good glue guy for a guy that not a ton of people necessarily paid attention to, because he played at IPFW. Not to be confused with IUPUI. But, Conchar's played some good ball and really held things together for them. So, yeah, Memphis playing well right now. Another team that's been surprising, the Indiana Pacers. Sacramento has been good too, and that's a team that you're looking at, like, who cares? It's Sacramento. But, they've quietly amassed a pretty decent roster with Sabonis and Keegan Murray and Davion Mitchell. They beat Cleveland last night without De'Aaron Fox. They're 14-10 and sitting only a game behind the Suns in the Pacific Division. So a lot of surprises in the NBA so far. They've played well. Like I said, Indiana's played well. New Orleans has played decent basketball. And then you see teams like Minnesota that have been terrible. So you make all these trades, and sometimes they don't pan out that way. Golden State in the third quarter. I know that was a trend Reichel really liked last year too. What's the line for them on the third quarter tonight? Has it been posted? Because I didn't look at it. Golden State tonight playing Boston. That's going to be tough, because Boston is such a prolific offensive team. Their true shooting percentage is north of 60%, which is ridiculous. It could be tough. I wouldn't bet against them just because of the fact that they have such an established track record. But But I wouldn't count against them. A and R. Let's see. All right. Top picks on the three-teamer today. I'm going to go with the Kings over the Canadians. I'm not going to lie and sit here and say that I don't hate the Montreal Canadiens. But let's face it, the Canadians have had major issues when it comes keeping the puck out of their own net. I get that they're 13-11-2, and they're coming off a win over the Kraken. I also watched them blow a 4-0 lead in the first period against Vancouver the other night. I also saw them blow a game against Edmonton. They got shut out by San Jose. They give up a ton of goals. They're giving up over 3.5 goals a game. That's not going to get it done. The Kings can score. Basically, that's the only thing they can do most nights because they haven't been great defensively either. But when you're averaging the kind of offensive production that you've gotten from the Kings with Kopitar and Fiala has slotted right in there, I like the Kings in that contest. They're rested. They're still above 500. They're battling for second place in the Pacific. Should be an interesting one. Unknown says under on the Navy game, Steph Curry to go over on rebounds and over on assists, 20 points from Tatum, and then whatever I put in there. Yeah, I think Tatum's pretty much a given as long as he's, breathing on the court to put up 20 points, considering you look at his numbers and, he's piled up, he's averaging better than 30 a game, 30 and a half. That Celtics team is dangerous when you've got him and Brown. Brogdon is in consideration for sixth man of the year. He's been a nice glue piece for that second unit for Boston. And, you've got 6 guys averaging in double figures, plus Grant Williams is averaging better than 9 a game. It's a dangerous Boston rotation, to say the least. I'm going to take Army with the points over Navy. Like I said, they can get to bowl eligibility here. And they're motivated, I know Coach Ken's a good guy over there at Navy, but I just don't trust him. Yeah, IUPUI is ranked dead last. Yeah. Well, I mean, you look, and they're one win is over Franklin, a non-D1 school. They do play a non-D1 school on Monday. They play Spalding. So they have a shot there. Other than that, you can't bet on them again until next Saturday when they play Eastern Illinois at home. Then they play Southern Indiana and Texas A&M Commerce on the 19th and the 20th, and then they won't play again until New Year's. So you get a break with having to worry about IUPUI today. Yeah, that's true. Andrew Wiggins has been banged up. He's a big contributor to that offense. And the Warriors, the best thing you can say about this game if you're going to back Golden State is at least it's at the Chase Center and it's not in Boston, because if it was in Boston, you wouldn't be talking about backing Golden State at all because they've been terrible on the road this season. Yeah, Wiggins has been ruled out according to Eric Walden. Iguodala, of course, hasn't played yet, so it'll be interesting to see how they try to match up without him in the mix. And finally, on the three-teamer, we've got the UC Irvine Anteaters over the South Dakota Coyotes. UC Irvine has played some pretty good basketball this season. They've lost 2 straight. They lost to San Diego State by 3 in a game where they're an underdog by 12. Then they struggled against Fresno State, which was weird last week. South Dakota coming off a 21-point loss to Air Force. Their best win on the year came over BYU by 1 last week. Of course, the Coyotes trying to rally around the fact that Eric Peterson, their coach, fell and was hurt. He's out out for a while. I just don't think it's going to carry them here. They struggle to shoot the ball. Use Irvine pretty good offensively. That'll take us to 4 for the show, which is one of my 4-teamers that I put up on my premium plays. The Celtics over the Warriors. We just talked about it a minute ago. Wiggins won't play. The Celtics, an explosive offense. They're on pace to become the first team to score 120 points a game since the Nuggets 30 years ago, back when Paul Westhead was the coach. I'm talking about how Antetokounmpo went for 6 rebounds and he had the over on rebounds. They killed all his tickets. Yeah, he didn't. It was strange not to see him attack the glass as aggressively as what we're used to. I was surprised. It was a tough game there against the Mavs last night. They won 106-105. Well, Antetokounmpo finished with 10 last night, or 10 boards last night. So I'm guessing we're talking about the game against Sacramento the other day. Yeah, that's because he just kept bullying people over, so he didn't have to worry about getting second chance shots. But you talk about a guy who's been on a roll other than Devin Booker, and it's been Antetokounmpo last 5 games, 37, 40, 34, 35, and 28 points. So he's been on a roll. Purdue over Nebraska. Here's the big thing with Purdue, and it's going to be an issue for anybody that plays them right now. And they've got Zach Edey. And, when you've got a guy who's 7'4", that's mobile, and it's tough to slow him down. Nebraska's biggest guy is 7 feet tall, but he's a freshman and plays, a handful of minutes a game. They've got a guy who's 6'11", but you're giving up 5-6 inches to a guy who's been dominant so far this season. Edey in the running for Player of the Year, for sure. He's got an offensive rating of 128.8. He gets a ton of rebounds, leads the nation in offensive rebound percentage. He blocks shots. He draws fouls. If he could make more free throws, people would be happy. But they're still a danger. He's still a dangerous team. The Maple Leafs over the Flames. The Leafs have been on a roll. Mitch Marner scored a point in 21 straight games. The Leafs have survived and thrived despite missing 3 of their top 4 defensemen for an extended period. They're coming off back-to-back shutouts. The Flames played last night and struggled against Columbus. I think Toronto can prevail there. And the Nets, yeah, Jeffrey saying Nebraska struggling to score. That's also true. They scored 65 against Indiana. They beat Creighton, but they only scored 63 in that game too. I think Purdue should have a good time offensively in that game, especially with Edey. We've seen him look like a man among boys against defenses this season. And the Nets over the Pacers. Both these teams played yesterday. The Nets beat the Hawks. The Pacers beat the Wiz. I haven't seen anything about anybody sitting out yet. Of course, that's always something you got to watch out for. I just like the Nets a little bit more than Indiana. You could always take the over in that game. Both these teams like to run and pile up points. I just think that Brooklyn, with Durant and with Irving, they're clicking now after a slow start. So that's why I'm going to back Brooklyn there. So the Celtics, the Boilermakers, the Maple Leafs, and the Nets. And that takes to everybody's favorite part of the show, the Shot in the Dark. Got a whole bunch of stuff in here. Don't pay attention to the numbers. I didn't really calculate them out last night because it was late. But I'm going to take the Mavs over the Bulls. I can't trust Chicago right now. They've had all kinds of issues. You're actually getting a point with Dallas, which is weird. Again, watch out in case Doncic is limited or doesn't play or whatever with these back-to-backs because you never know with load management. I'm going to take Wake Forest over LSU. I've had good luck with Wake Forest this season. The Demon Deacons playing some good basketball for Steve Forbes. I know they lost to Clemson in their last game last week. But this is a team that's played some pretty quality basketball, and I think it'll be a good game with LSU. The Clippers over the Wiz. We talked about the Wizards playing the Indiana and losing. The Clippers, sooner or later, they'll figure out how to get Leonard and George on the floor at the same time for an extended period. But I think they'll take care of business here against a Washington team that's struggling, to say the least. Injury has been a big issue for the Wizards. We talked about Army-Navy staying under the total. Like we said, 16 straight games between these teams under the total. I know it's a low number, but still. The Lightning over the Panthers. This game coming to you from the Amalie Arena. The Lightning need a win. Florida struggled defensively. They haven't been the same team this year. Even with the addition of Kachuk, I think dealing with Huberdeau and Weaker was a big blow for them. Florida State and Louisville. I know everybody's like, well, Florida State sucks. Leonard Hamilton has not had a good team this year, and they're right. They're 1-9. The good part, Louisville is 0-8, and Louisville is 0-8, and they've lost their last 5 games by 26, 32, 19, 25, and 27 points. They haven't played on the road yet this season either. They're 0-5 at home, 0-3 on neutral floors. If Florida State can't win this game, they've got problems. Butler over Cal, another team that sucks. I'm waiting to put Cal, Louisville, and IUPUI in a tournament and see who wins. Cal just lost to Eastern Washington at home. They're 0-10. Can't trust them here. Xavier over Cincinnati in a battle of teams from Cincinnati. I just like the Musketeers a little bit better in that contest. The Wild and Canucks over 6.5. Both these teams like to score. Both these teams have some questionable goaltending. Look for plenty of offense in that contest. And Matthew talking about, add Oakland to that tournament. Right, Jeffrey. They're another team that has major issues. We saw that against Syracuse earlier this week. And Nashville over Ottawa. Matthew's saying the Preds need to go on a run. I think it starts today, too. Ottawa has really struggled this season. They can't keep the puck out of their own net. They got a lot of talent, but they've struggled defensively, and that's going to prove to be their undoing again today. And that will do it, because I know everybody wants to go back and have breakfast and everything else. I appreciate everybody stopping by. We'll be back, of course, next Saturday, and we'll have NFL to talk about because there'll be NFL games on Saturday too. We'll have college bowl games. We'll have college basketball. We'll have the NHL. We'll have the NBA, and we'll have college basketball. You name it, we'll have it. And we'll be closer to seeing what happens at the end of the World Cup as well. Again, thanks for tuning in. We will catch you next Saturday. I hope everybody has a good rest of the weekend. And for Just Parlays, I'm Chris King. We will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Stay safe out there.